Chapter 8. Blood trickled down Samilla's cheek and dripped on the rock below her, but she felt no pain at all in her head. She looked up at the rock ledge. There was matching green blood there where she had hit her head. Green, not red. The collision had been bad, yet she felt no pain on her head. Her claws, however, felt as though they had been torn off with excruciating slowness. Yet they looked whole, perfect in fact. Smil looked at the human girl before her on the rocks, the girl whose hands were so scraped up, yet did not appear to pain her. Tilly kept putting her hands to her head as though it pained her instead. Smil felt dazed more from wonder than from pain. Could it be possible? "Am I feeling your pain?" Smil asked hesitantly. I I think you are," Talon replied, looking as dazed from the concept of the pain, "as I feel yours." "Did you do this?" Smil asked. Talon shook her head so hard that Smil felt a bit of vertigo. In that instant Smil knew why she had felt dizzy when she was holding the girl over the cliff edge. She sighed. "I was afraid not. I thought so at first, but—" Smil stared at the jewel around Talon's neck, then looked at the one around her own neck. "Do you think you putting the pendant together caused this?" "I'm just an acolyte. I know precious little of magic besides praying for healing to my god Mishkael. But I think it's possible the jewels could have caused this," Talon said, getting to her feet. Smil winced as the girl put weights on the scrapes, but managed to keep from yelling. She felt silly yelping about all these injuries that, even by human standards, seemed very minor. "You are a cleric. Is there anything you can do for your hands, or my head?" Smil asked. "I tried healing myself earlier, but it didn't work. Let me try healing you." Talon motioned with one raw hand. Smil lowered her head to Talon's level. The girl cupped the bronze head in both hands and whispered a prayer. Nothing. Talon bit her lip, looking at the dragon's wound and her scraped palms. "I need to do something. If I can't heal us, perhaps I can find some herbs and make a poultice." "The pain doesn't bother me," Smil said, hiding yet another wince as Talon poked curiously at her hand. "I'm not some feeble human." "Just because you can't feel it doesn't mean that the cut isn't serious. Even mine could be bad if they fester," Talon argued. "I know of some plants that will help, if we can find them." Smil remembered some of the plants the healer had brought to treat her mother. Mother. This time Smil winced, but not from physical pain. The girl was right. Where would these plants grow? "Not up here," Talon said. "Closer to the ground. Near water would be best." Smil narrowed her eyes at the girl. "You'll try to escape again." "I can't," Talon said flatly. "If we're connected like this, running away would do me no good. And if we aren't connected, why do you need me? I already told you I don't know anything about who hurt your mother." Smil sighed. Maybe the girl had told her all she knew of the pendant. Maybe not. But they wouldn't solve whatever had been caused by that flash of light by standing up here talking. She would keep a close eye on Talon, in case she did try to escape again. "Wonderful! Let's go!" Talon knelt down before Talon. The girl would have to climb, but she could reach the top of Smil's back easily. "Wait!" Talon exclaimed, taking a few steps back. "We're flying?" "How else can we get there?" Smil asked. "That path you found ended badly. This is the quickest way." Really, these humans were silly creatures. It's amazing that they survived this long. And so fragile. Smil looked in disgust at the wounds on the human's hands. It had taken a very heavy and a very sharp rock to hurt Smil's head, yet this creature could damage itself merely by falling. Talon still looked uncertain, but she climbed up onto Smil's back and sat down between her wings, wrapping her small legs around the dragon's neck. Smil moved her wings experimentally. "Can you stay on?" Smil really didn't care if the human fell off her back, but what would happen if the human was killed? Would Smil feel that pain? Would she die? That was a disturbing notion. "I think so," Talon said, reaching down behind her. Talon grabbed the base of Smil's wings and held tight. "Can you still fly?" "I won't know until I try." Smil turned about swiftly and ran to the edge of the cliff, spreading her wings wide and leaping into the air. As she left the ground, Smil had a panicked thought. "What if I can't fly?" The next moment proved this worry unfounded. Samil glided through the air easily. She could tell from the weight that the human girl was still holding on tight. She shook slightly, but that did not affect Samil's flying. Before long, Samil began to feel sick to her stomach, like the time she had eaten a rotten piece of kelp on a wormling. The ground below her spun slightly. What was happening? Was this part of the spell? Talon screamed. Samil looked up and saw a large tree looming before them. She banked sharply upward and to the right, narrowly missing it, then dived down on the other side. As Samil pulled out of the dive, the world went black. Samil gasped, but before she could begin to panic, her vision was back. I can't fly like this, Samil thought, scanning the ground below. She spied a large meadow and landed as quickly as possible. Talon either hopped off or fell off, but Samil barely noticed. The dragon retched into the grasses while Talon watched her with a disgusted expression. What happened? Talon asked when Samil finished emptying her stomach of her last meal. I don't know, Samil said weakly. I've never felt like that before. I feel sick to my stomach and dizzy, and for a moment I couldn't see. Sick and dizzy? That was how I felt when you flew me up to the cliff. Talon snapped her fingers, and once again Samil felt the pain as the girl's finger hit her scraped palm. You now react to heights the way I do. The girl was right. Samil recalled the odd moment of dizziness she had when suspending the girl over the cliff edge. I can't fly? Samil would have roared, but feared the fish she ate would before the animal would swim up her throat and out of her mouth. We have to figure out how to break this spell. First, let me see what I can do for our wounds, Talon said firmly. Samil kept a close eye on the girls as she wandered about the meadow examining flowers. Near a small stream, Talon found a cluster of white blossoms. She gathered them up in her robes and carried them back to Samil, then mashed the flowers into a pulp between two rocks as Samil watched over her shoulder. Talon then set the pulp aside and held the hem of her blue robe up to Samil. Can you tear this? She asked. Samil had no idea what the girl was doing, but she slit the hem neatly with one sharp claw. Talon spread the mashed flowers on the cloth, then held it up to Samil. Bend down, Talon said. Samil did so, and Talon tied the cloth around her head. I don't feel any different, Samil said. I do, Talon said, putting more flower pulp on the rest of the hem. She tied it over one hand, and in her own hand Samil felt first a sting, then cooling relief. It's working, Samil exclaimed. Perhaps humans were not so useless after all. Talon did the same for her other hand, and the same relief spread through Samil's other hand. Now that that's done, Talon said, filling with one of her braids, how can we undo this spell? The human was right. For every spell there was a counterspell, but who would know it? What of this human who gave you your jewel? Elliston? Talon breathed. He's head of the Church of Paladine and a very wise man. If anyone will know, he will, even if he doesn't. Surely he would know someone who could help us. But I want to bring a dragon to Palanthas, even if most people there do revere you. They revere us? Samil asked, both shocked and pleased. Not all, but most. The good dragon supposedly saved the city during the war. It doesn't matter. I won't take you there. Would you prefer to come to my home? Samil asked acidly. My mother and father are there, as well as my uncle. I'm sure they would love to see you. Talon blanched as Samil guessed she would. Samil's family would never harm the girl, despite how frustrating she was. They'd probably throw her a party. In any case, Samil did not want any humans around her family, and again, ever. Anyways, Samil said, my mother can't tell us anything. She's very ill and... Samil turned away, blinking back tears. Talon turned away and said, Fine, we'll go to Palanthas. She looked at the sun, which was approaching its noon zenith, the mountains behind her. We're on the other side of the mountains where you kidnapped me, aren't we? She asked. Samil glared and nodded. She had done that on purpose, to put some distance between Talon and her friends. Talon got her bearings and began walking swiftly north. Samil followed her, but her legs felt heavy and her whole body dragged. Wait! Samil said, then gasped in shock at herself. Was she actually having trouble keeping up with a human? The two of them continued in silence for a long time. They passed through forests and meadows and went up steep hills and down rocky ravines. Even though Smil was unused to walking for such a long distance, she was surprised at how quickly she grew tired. By contrast, Talon practically skipped ahead of her. The magic must have also switched their basic energy. Talon now had the typical stamina of a dragon, while Smil was stuck with the puny constitution of a human. "When I find who is responsible for this," Smil grumbled, "I'm going to bite their head off. I don't care if it's a human or a dragon," she snorted, and realized something was wrong. Where was the lightning that normally accompanies snorts? Horrible realization crept over Smil. She turned her head away from Talon and tried to breathe out noxious fumes. Nothing came out but air. "My weapons are gone," Smil thought. "All I have now are my teeth and claws and tail." She looked at Talon moving swiftly ahead. "I won't tell her," she decided. "Let her think I'm still dangerous." As the trail changed from easy flat land to another incline, Smil slowed even more. She wasn't sure she could make it, but she didn't want the human to know about her weakness. Talon paused and turned back to look at Smil lagging behind. "Come on, slowpoke," she called. "We can cover more ground before nightfall." Looking up again at the incline, Smil gave in. She had to admit she was exhausted. "It's your fault I'm slow," Smil said. "I must have your energy." "No wonder," Talon said. "I feel like I could walk all the way to Palanthus and back in a day." "Well, I don't," Smil said. "If we hadn't been switched, you wouldn't be able to either. So quit running ahead." Talon grinned. "Why don't we stop for the evening? I can build a fire. Can you find us something to eat?" "Why me? Can't humans hunt?" Smil asked. Better to taunt the human than admit she was too tired to even venture into the nearby trees. "And why do we need a fire?" "For warmth and cooking." "Cooking? You mean food?" Smil shuddered. How horrible! Still, the thought of food made Smil's stomach twist painfully. She had none of the gurgles of hunger, but she felt the pain of an empty stomach. She heard Talon's belly rumble loudly. When had the girl last eaten? "Just find us something," Talon said. "You might as well put those teeth and claws to some good use. I'll find firewood." Talon wandered into a dense thicket where the underbrush hid several broken tree limbs. As soon as she was out of sight, Smil tried to polymorph into a squirrel. Nothing. She tried a few other animals, all with the same lack of result. Her magic was gone, just as the girl's clerical powers were. Another stab of hunger made Smil forget the loss of her magic. If she could find water, she could find enough fish for her and the annoying human. As tempting as it was to let Talon starve, Smil did not look forward to feeling someone else's hunger that she could not diminish by eating. Far off she heard the rushing water of a large river, perhaps the one in which she had slept the previous night. As Smil walked toward the water, every bone and muscle in her body ached from the exertion the human felt from this very long, exhausting day. What if they never fixed this? Talon would reap all the benefits of being a dragon, while Smil stayed trapped with the fragility of a human. No magic, no flying, no transforming. If they didn't fix it soon, Smil feared they might have to stick together for a long time to come. And that's the end of chapter 8. Bye!